You're listening to the Informal Mystic Podcast, your destination for mind-bending conversations that explore metaphysics, energy medicine, and the mysteries of the universe. I'm your host, Blaire McDaniel. Thanks for tuning in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Informal Mystic Podcast. Last week, we talked about the lower chakra system, the root, sacral, and solar plexus. And this week, we're talking about one of my favorite chakras. I don't know if you're allowed to have a favorite chakra, but if you were, mine would probably be the heart chakra. And my guest today is Jenn Howard from Gaia Heals. I talk
Greetings.
about her literally all the time. I feel like I talk about you in every podcast because I'm always like, my mentor does this, says this. My mentor says this.
That makes my
But
heart very happy.
have you heard what I said though?
I've listened to all of them.
I'm just giving you crap. Yeah, it's all good things, all good things. But yeah, so thank you so much for coming on. We are not in person, sadly. We're
Bummer.
on the Zoom because we got sick kids and a busy schedule. But super excited to hear Jenn's unique take on the heart chakra. Because we were just talking before the podcast began how different well, I mean, really our perception on anything. We really do have complementary energy. And I just feel like you have such a unique way of seeing the heart chakra that we could all learn from you. So
Mm,
thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I guess to start, let's just do a little bit of an intro, like what got you here, what got you into the energy medicine. Yeah. I mean, do they know how we met? I don't know if I've ever said that on the podcast so far.
Probably not on the podcast.
I know we've
No.
said it in the air before,
Yeah,
but
it's
not
in the
here.
ether somewhere, but I don't know what
Yeah,
thread you have to pull to
I
drop it down.
know. Yeah, not sure I can
I
find where
know
I said that.
it was about 3 years ago. That's kind of your story to tell, which,
Yeah,
so
I mean,
let
I've
me,
told it.
well, and you can tell it here.
You can totally
But
tell your perspective too. I don't know if I've ever heard your perspective.
yeah, that's
I'd probably
true.
be like, this girl, she just came into my energy. She was like really intense.
You were intense, but in a
I don't know about
really,
that.
a really fun way where I was like, dude, this chick's gonna be fun.
Everybody knows how chill I am.
Yeah, you're
So I'm
so
really
chill.
chill. I'm so chill. Oh my
The
God.
sarcasm. So I got into this wild, wild world that we live in, this metaphysical existence. Probably, I would say early on because I grew up Catholic and I went to church and it all just felt wrong. Like I was
Yeah.
6 and I've told you this. I was writing in my journal at 6, like something's not right. They keep talking about how I have to go to a priest. If you know anything about Catholicism, there's always a medium in between you and the divine nature of you. You
It's
always have
usually a
to,
white guy.
it's usually a white guy.
Yeah.
And I was just looking around and I would go to mass
Mhm.
twice a week my entire life. And I was just looking around, I was like, it was the beginning of me just noticing a deeper way of being. I was just seeing energy and I was feeling energy in a different way than all these adults around me. And it took me until I was in my 20s that I just kind of blew up my life. I got pregnant with my daughter Gaia, and it's a really primal experience to create life inside of your body. And it put me face to face. Like, okay, you've had all of these inklings about how profound and deep life can be. So let's just mix it up. Because I was a director at a nonprofit and I was just living my days in the 3D, not feeling fulfilled, but like, this is what you're supposed to do. You get your college degree. I did that. You get a job, you get an office, you get a business card. So my precious little baby girl just like
Mhm.
detonated the bits of normalcy that was still inside of me. Uh, so I resigned from my job and I just started delving into what is energy, what is metaphysical existence, what is spirituality outside of religious dogma.
Mhm.
And then I got sick, really sick for 3 years. I had undiagnosed Lyme disease. So I was homebound and had about 60 to 90 minutes a day to leave my house, which was a big departure from what I was used to. I was pretty healthy my whole life. And this was when life really changed for me because I could now, since I couldn't leave the home, I had no choice but to go inward and heal myself. And I got really good at it. And so I would spend 6 to 8 hours a day in deep trance meditation, not moving a muscle. And then I met my mentor, who is a spiritual healer. She's a medical intuitive. So I apprenticed with her for 2 years. I got my yoga certification. I just said Yoda.
Technically, it's your Yoda certification
Oh
too.
my God, I love that right there. I got my Yoda certification. And
She uses the Force pretty regularly.
I do. God, just go back and watch those
Mm.
movies and
Hmm.
you'll see it from a whole new light. The Matrix, did you watch that when you weren't quite in your spiritual awakening? Let's go
Yeah.
back. Anything the Wachowski sisters have ever put out, just go back and watch. Sense8 on Netflix.
That's a good one. Yeah. Sense8's definitely good.
Please dive into that. So then I felt itchy when I was working with my mentor and decided in 2020 that I was going to break off, create my own business, spread my wings, and really fine tune my medicine outside of her four walls. And I created Gaia Heals. And I met you shortly after. So I think
When
Gaia
did we
Heals,
meet?
it
I
was
started my business in
2021.
2021. Yeah. So it was, I feel like spring of 2021 when you did my guide reading.
Yes.
And then it was summer when we met in person.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then from there, it's like, oh
Hmm.
geez. You tell
So,
it, you tell the story. I've
yeah.
told the story 100 times. You
So
tell
we're
your perspective.
we're talking about the heart chakra, and this is
Hmm.
really what you dove deeply into to access this connection.
Hmm.
That heart chakra is the seat of our intuition. So I asked you when we first met to dive into your intuition, to reach out into the ethers and start connecting with higher vibrational beings so
Hmm.
that you could gain some insight and clarity and discernment on how you wanted to move forward. So Blaire is just some person in the ether on Instagram that is in my DMs. And I was at this point doing spirit guide readings. So I would do them independently. I would channel the information. It would take me an ungodly amount of time, like 4 or 6 hours, and I would type up
So long.
13 pages, 11 font, single space of me channeling the essence of your spirit guides, their appearance, and of course, profound messages to help you along on your path. And I was doing this for, I think, $60.
Yeah, it was
I
like
was,
no dollars.
yeah, I was just getting started.
Uh-huh.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Yeah, it really
Those
was.
things are still saved in my computer, and I love going back and revisiting them. So Blaire's in my DMs, and she says, "Listen, this sounds really cool, but it also is very triggering. I
Hmm.
don't know if this is for me, but you didn't articulate this, but I could feel, but my intuition got tapped on. And
Hmm.
I have the courage and the strength and the awareness enough to not just keep scrolling. I'm actually going to lean in because in reality, you and I have cords tethered to each other in our hearts. So you had additional energy because energy is just information. You had additional information saying Jen's legit. She's not just some wacko on the internet. And so you lean into all that. You were in your heart chakra making these decisions. And so you said, I really don't have $60 to spend on this, so it would be a big leap of faith for me to even do this, and I don't even know if I want to do it. And
Hmm.
so I typed back and I just fell in love with you in that instant. And I said,
Well, thank heavens.
said, girl, just sit with it. You
Hmm.
are leaning into such a beautiful channel of energy for you. And even if it isn't a spirit guide reading for me, there's something in the energy of that offering that tapped on you. And so just lean into it in general. But if you want a reading from me, it's so easy. You just task your guides with it. Okay, I need $60. They love interacting with you in this direct
Hmm.
way. So ask them for $60. If you get it, then you know that the energy is right between us. And so Blaire got an ungodly amount of money in that
It's like
week
$25,000. It's a lot of
from
freaking money.
every angle of her life.
Stimulus. And yeah, I was making sales and we got our stimulus. We got PPP that we weren't expecting. And it's just like, I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot. And I've tried to recreate it. I'm like, oh my God, guys. I guess I'll believe in you if you give me $60 again. And they're like, nice try.
They know that lesson's
You're
already
not
been learned.
swindling us this time.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was a magical moment that is not a recreatable thing, I don't think. Like I think monetary success is in a different like category for me now, right? Like I've got a different path to money than that like miraculous occurrence that took place. But it was, man, it was such a fun time. So
That
I got the
was a
guide reading,
hmm
then I met you in person. The rest was history.
yeah.
Yeah, it's good
It's been a
times.
blast ever
It
since.
has. It has. Uh, exponential growth, as you so frequently say,
Oh, that's what relationships are when we're
aren't
truly
they?
in a relationship.
Yeah.
And Blaire has taught me how to be in a profoundly deep relationship. Like, bring me the things, say the
Mhm.
things
Yeah.
that you're feeling in your body, and let's work through them
Mhm.
instead of stuffing them away, which is
Or
what,
running from them.
yeah,
Yeah.
ignoring them and pretending that they don't exist.
Yeah. Yeah. I
That's
don't think
all
I can
heart
ignore
chakra.
them. I know it really is heart chakra. So my first question about the heart chakra is that you always talk about it as this intuitive thing, but differentiate the heart chakra and the third eye. Because a lot of times when I'm talking about intuition, I'm talking about a third eye connection.
Mhm.
But here you are dropping it down like two more chakras. So connect those dots for me
Okay, that's a
and
great
the
question.
listeners.
Yeah. So that heart is kind of the channel. It's the one that calls in this external energy that wants to be read, that wants to be felt, that wants to be deciphered. If you're a closed off heart, you're not bringing in it any external energy to be deciphered. No
Mm,
wisdoms, right?
it's true.
So this heart is this lighthouse or this beacon, this open portal that if we're working on keeping it open and opening it wider and wider and wider still, then energy is information. So more energy comes into us, more information comes into us. The heart funnels that up into those upper three chakras for discernment, for usage. It
Hmm.
put the upper three chakras put that information to use. So it starts, that energy comes in, that wisdom, that information funnels through that portal in the heart. It's pushed up into the upper three chakras and it starts answering the questions that these upper three chakras have. So then you hit that throat. That throat asks the questions: who am I? Why am I here? What are my gifts? How do I fine tune those gifts so that I can use them at the highest possible level? Okay,
Hmm.
so any of that information that that heart can open up, get more, you're going to be able to answer those questions at a deeper and more profound level. And it just keeps getting deeper and deeper. There is no end game to this while we're incarnate on
I
Earth.
hate that for us.
It's such a journey.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we go up into the third eye, which is this predictive psychic sight lens. And this is how you discern the hows and the whens.
Hmm.
Once you have the answers, okay, who am I? Why am I here? what am I supposed to do while I'm here? And how do I do it really well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now you have the answers to that because you opened your heart and you just have all this beautiful information coming in. You're sitting in meditation. You're like, I am this person and I'm here to do this. Then that energy goes up to the third eye and you start getting clarity on how the fuck do I mobilize
Like,
this?
yeah, execution. Okay.
Right. It's that predictive
Interesting.
psychic sight. And here's the thing, if you're controlling, your third eye is atrophied. It's real
Mm-hmm.
closed up. And if it's closed up, that energy from your throat that's liberated can't get up into that third eye because the opposite spectrum of control is abundance. And the third eye loves abundance because if it's predictive psychic sight, it wants to show us a myriad of different ways in which we can mobilize who we are while we're here, what our
Mm-hmm.
gifts are. It doesn't want to just show us one way, which is control, right? When we
Mm-hmm.
just have tunnel vision and our third eye is really closed off, so no information's coming in, and we're like, okay, I can only live this truth because everything else is scary and I don't understand it. And so my life can only pan out this way. That's the only path I'm comfortable with. That's
Yeah.
a really narrowed third eye. Predictive psychic sight is like opening that aperture and saying, okay, my life, I can take it down this path. I can take my gifts down this path. I can take, and it's all beautiful. And
Mm-hmm.
then you feel that abundance coming in and that relaxation where you have that energy where you sit back and it's the opposite of control. It's allowing because
Mm-hmm.
your third eye is so clear and open, you can see 10 steps ahead
Mm-hmm.
and you can pivot with ease because you can see 10 steps ahead. Does that make sense?
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So you're talking about the throat being the like place where you figure out where you live. But when I'm or hang on, not where you live. That's not it. It's who you are. You said it's that throat chakra is who you are. But when I'm looking at the energy, and we just finished one on the lower chakra system last week,
Hmm.
but uh, I think that the solar plexus is really the storehouse of like identity and like who we are. And then once you bump up into that throat chakra, that's where you actualize. That's like how you manifest it into 3D reality. And so it's a really interesting how you're perceiving these chakras and what the heart's role in all of it is. Because the way that I see the upper and the lower chakra system is that they're just like a really beautiful mirrored experience of the lower and the upper, and they have like like if you fold it in half, you would have the throat and the solar plexus mirroring, and then the third eye and the sacral mirroring, and then the root and the crown mirroring, and um, so for me, when I'm in third eye energy, I'm in the relationship of uh our relationship to the unknown and the spiritual. And so it's so I I just love how different things I'm like you're like you taught me how to do this stuff, but we just see things so differently. And
Yeah.
it boggles my mind
You got to
how
live
it
in the gray because
yeah.
everything is through different lenses and
Mm-hmm.
nothing is a silo. Everything is interacting.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I work with chakras in kind of the same way, but I connect the root with the throat.
Okay.
I still connect the sacral with the third eye and
Mm-hmm.
then the solar plexus with the
With the
crown.
crown. Uh-huh.
But that sacral in the third eye, yeah, that's what the Christ consciousness activation is about. It's bringing Christ consciousness matrix activation is all about bringing your truth into your relationships. That keyword relationship is for sacral and third eye. She's going to start laughing.
The Christ consciousness activation is so much different for me. Okay, so Jenn, her relationship with religion is not, she never really participated in it. And every time she talks about it, I'm literally like, oh my God, I am so jealous. I am so jealous because she did not get that indoctrination like I did. She was 6 writing in her journal about how Nothing's making sense. But I was 6, writing in my journal about how scary it was that I was probably going to go to hell. I was like tapped in. And so I got this very vibrant connection. And like, if I'm going to talk about the heart chakra, I'm definitely going to talk about Jesus, because
Mhm.
Jesus, the energy of the heart chakra is reflected most to me in the energy of the Christ. And so I got this very deep connection to Jesus, the Christ. And it was because of the Christ that I was able to leave church and find a new path. Right. So, like, the more I got to know Jesus, the more I realized this is the structure that Jesus would not vibe with today. So I still have such a deep, deep connection to, in relationship with, the energy of specifically Jesus, but Christ consciousness in general. And so for me, Christ consciousness is like so squarely in that heart chakra. And when I very first started working with you, it was probably in the summer of 2021. I removed a block in my heart chakra, which I'll have actually want to know your thought on this. Um, I don't see blocks in chakras very frequently, but when I do, it's in the heart. Is that
Mhm.
something that you are familiar with at all in your work?
Yeah, you usually find blocks
Like in
typically
the,
in the body
yeah.
or trapped floating in the auric fields. If there's anything lodged in the chakras, it's a pretty big, major
Yeah.
thing. And typically, chakras are more resilient than that. And
Hmm.
they don't really hold blocks, like, they can spin them out pretty
Hmm.
efficiently and effectively. So if you have a block in the heart, it's pretty, detrimental, I think, and
Hmm.
it's a long-term trans-dimensional experience
Experience,
that
yeah.
you're having, and the heart is very vulnerable. So
Hmm.
if that's gonna happen, it's gonna happen in the heart.
Yeah. So I began working with you, and it was like before we had even like agreed to do like the apprenticeship, and for you to take a more formal approach in my, I guess, my medicine or whatever. But I uncovered this block like right in my chest and right in the center of my heart chakra. And I was like, what? Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I literally have no idea what I'm doing. I need you to help me. And so I messaged you, and I was like, I can't get energy there. Like, I can feel energy in my body. It was in a, that was how I really was convinced that this was real stuff. I could feel the energy going in my body in very specific ways. And uh was messaging you because I was like, oh, I can't this is so uncomfortable, this is so painful. And so I was texting back and forth with you, and you're like, it's a past life, there's some kind of block, and you're going to have to like invite the past life in to figure out what's going on with this past life. And so I invited these past lives in, and it was connected with like back to back to back past lives where I was like brutally murdered by my husband. And this was the incarnation where I was like shifting out of that. He's not going to brutally murder me, guys. Don't worry. He's a good guy, I promise. We just have this soul contract where he's volunteering to be like the bad guy, quote unquote. And so it's the middle of the night, and I do what you told me, which was get in the meditative state, pull the block up, and push through the like wall that it is. And I did, and I got 3 lives back to back where it was just like brutalized. And it's like the middle of the night, and I'm on the couch sobbing over these lives that I did not ever even experience. And I'm just having so many emotions. And then the next day it like kind of continued, and I had to emote and release and emote and release. And so then I went into a meditative state to continue the work, to continue trying to heal this block in my heart chakra. And the Christ showed up. And the Christ gave me this piece of Christ consciousness, and it was like a yellow raw gem, and they it that he I don't even know how to talk about Christ consciousness, but he put it in the in my heart chakra, and he said, as you evolve, this rock will polish or whatever. And so when you talk about that sacred geometric shape in the heart chakra,
Mm.
that's there. And yeah, so that every time we feel different. I mean, I don't think we feel differently. I feel like we probably need to explore together how Christ consciousness really hits. Because when you talk about it, you're talking about it in totally different chakras. And for me, it's like all the heart. So yeah, that's just an interesting addition to the conversation or segue. I mean, I guess we're still talking about the heart chakra, so it's not really a segue, but
Well, the matrix that I activate, it brings the heart and the third eye in communion through the throat.
okay.
So, and this is a conversation about making sure you create a regular practice of tuning into the heart and opening
Hmm.
it so that you can fine tune your medicine,
Yeah.
because this is what we're talking about. So Blaire is going to fine tune her medicine, and she's going to figure out what makes her unique from everyone else in this world through her gifts. And then the clearer you get on the specificity of your gifts, the stronger the ripple effect and the radiation, the energetic ripple you create out into the world, which calls people to you. It creates this
Hmm.
magnetic effect because we are electromagnetic beings. And this is why it's so important, because your vision of how Christ consciousness can manifest in someone's awareness on this earth is unique. And
Hmm.
so the clearer you get on that, the stronger your frequency you put out into the world, and more people you can woo woo, like,
Hmm.
hello, I'm over here. And they're like, oh, there you are. And they come
Hmm.
running towards you. Same thing with me. I have my unique way of tapping into a frequency of Christ consciousness that is more in resonance with someone else's
Yeah.
needs and trauma responses. And so the clearer I become, the more I tap into my heart and open it up. The stronger my frequency is, and I start calling in those specific people that need me. So
Hmm.
no one's right, no one's wrong. We
Yeah.
just have this responsibility to figure out our angle
Yeah.
in this world of healing so that we can be stewards of whatever it is we're supposed to wield here.
Yeah. I always find it,
Medicine.
say it again.
People need our medicine.
And I always find it so interesting how essentially we're achieving the same results. And
Yeah,
like the path we take to get there is just so
yeah.
dynamic and so different.
Everyone in
Um,
the world is so unique. Their
yeah.
traumas are different, their behavior
Mm,
patterns, they have different core belief systems that lead them through different behavior patterns and narrative loops, and you can talk to them in a certain way
hmm.
and access their pain. I can talk to them in a different way and access their
Yeah.
pain. And they don't need us, right? Like
Nobody
everyone's a
needs us.
healer, but we're an accelerated portal. So you
Yeah.
can use us if you want.
Yeah. That's what I always say. I always say, you don't need me.
Mm-mm.
You can figure this out by yourself, but I'm just going to help you expedite the process. She says
Mhm.
accelerated portal. I say expedite the process.
What are you,
See?
FedEx?
Yeah, logistics.
Blaire the UPS
Yeah. I'm
machine
gonna get you shipped, baby. I'm gonna get you shipped.
overnight.
Okay. So, I want to talk a little bit about, well, definitely Jesus, but, also,
She
uh,
totally wants to talk about Jesus.
love Jesus. And the thing is I don't like church. I don't like organized religion. Sometimes when I'm like, I really resonate with Jesus, people are just like, ugh. Like they get their hackles raised, especially when I was working with people who were like leaving church, like that was my niche. Um, and that would be like this thing that I'd keep secret, like, oh my gosh, like Jesus, I don't know, he's weird. I don't know, Jesus, what are you talking about?
Well, if you get triggered by that term, then you know that you still have conditioning to unravel. That's
Yeah,
it.
like
It's
he
no
has
big
been,
deal. We just have to unravel some programming and conditioning that the dogma imprinted on you.
which
And
you've had to do, right? Like I would talk
yeah,
about Jesus and use the word God, which I don't, God is such a limited term and it's such a co-opted term. But I would say those things and you would kind of get your hackles raised a little bit. There was that
yeah,
book, which I talk about all the time, Conversations with God.
uh-huh.
I'm like, this is such a good book. You need to read it. And you're like, I just don't think he's talking to God. I just don't think he's
Hmm.
talking to God. And I'm like, I mean, I don't think he's talking to God either. Like God, I don't even know what God
Uh-huh.
is. Like, what are we talking about? We say God.
Yeah.
It's such a weird term. But organized religion has done like a freaking doozy. And so when I am sitting with the energy of the heart chakra, what I'm really, really leaning into is the essence of unconditional love,
Hmm.
the ability to access non-duality, right? It's the ability to shift from either or black and white thinking into all the vibrant expression of grace and permission and love beyond all things.
Hmm.
It's the ability to fully see everything that's taking place and not run
Hmm.
from it. And so when I'm talking about healing the heart chakra, what I'm trying to help people do is heal their capacity to love.
Hmm.
And that love is a non-negotiable for all, not just for people who are easy to love,
Hmm.
right? Like you gotta love, if you're gonna love and you're gonna do it genuinely, it's gonna have to be this vibrant. I've said vibrant like 73 times in this
Because
one
it's such a
podcast, I
good word.
swear.
A word.
Vibrant. But if you're gonna love, then you can't pick and choose and be like, ah, this person's worthy of love, but this person's really not. Like, oh, they suck, right? So love is this foundational, essential vibration that we must embody in order to really shift out of duality, in order to shift into the higher vibrational realms. And so that to me is the primary job of the heart chakra. And once you can do that, the whole world opens up before you. There is nothing that's more pure in vibration and in energy than love. In fact, we could probably call love energy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or like observance, non-judgmental observance. We could call that, here's the kicker, here's the punchline. We could call it consciousness,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Love is consciousness. It's seeing without the need to change. And so, yeah, we'll work our way through that lower chakra system. We'll be building safety. We'll be building relationship energy. We'll be building identity energy. And then we get to the heart chakra and it's like, are you ready to start loving people?
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, no, I am literally not. And I get it. I totally get it. I understand because loving certain people feels so invalidating. And a lot of times what happens is people will conflate love with like permissiveness, right? Like, oh, they hurt me. And if I love them, then it was okay that they hurt me. And I'm like, no, 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 it's not that at all. Loving somebody is holding them to that standard that you know they can get to,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's being able to say, like, okay, for instance, in our relationship, when we've had like, and I'll put like issues in air quotes because we don't really have issues. We just have like ways to learn one another better.
We have accelerated growth moments.
We have vibrant, accelerated growth. But yeah, love is not just letting my needs go unmet, right? It's me coming to you and being like, hey, I'm feeling lonely again.
Mhm.
And I noticed that this is something that we do regularly where, we'll have like a winter or something. Like winter will come and you'll be like, I am in hibernation mode. And I'll be like, I'm so lonely over here, right? And vice versa, right? Like you'll be like, well, this is how my energy works. Let's figure out how to work through it. Love is not pretending like none of it's happening. Love is
Mhm.
not me squashing down my needs and like pretending like they don't exist.
Mhm.
Love is me bravely and courageously saying, this is who I am, and this would be my expectation, or this would be what I view as friendship or love. And are we on the same page? Is this
Mhm.
how you view it also? And God, that's scary.
Well, this life is a roller coaster. When you
Hmm.
drop down into duality, if you're trying to hold on to feeling good all the time, to
Hmm.
coasting all the time, then you're in an energy of resistance. And so what you're articulating is this surrender to it all
Mm. Yeah.
and surrendering to the ups and downs of life and realizing that it's inherent, you can't run from it.
Hmm.
And also that there is no good and bad. There
Yeah.
isn't a good relationship and a bad relationship. There is varying frequencies in duality, and the middle ground, the middle path, like the Buddhists say, is a good path to take. That is compassionate and non-judgment. You use that word polarization. If you are feeling polarized on any political movement, on any kind of core value or issue or emotion, that is a moment, that is an alarm that goes up that
Hmm.
says, "Ooh, my heart is closed in that area of life." We should a truly open heart always lives in the gray and refuses to be polarized, sees that good and bad are all the same divine creation, and they're just different experiences based on frequencies.
Hmm. Yeah.
And we
Based
got to
on
ride that
what
coaster.
we got to ride the roller coaster, baby. But it's experiences based upon what our soul is desiring to have, right? What experience does our soul want to have? Do we want to have an experience where we heal and have a high vibration, or do we want to have an experience where we're like brutally murdered, right? Uh, Both are valid, as awful as that sounds, right? This is not a culturally okay thing for me to say, like, oh, being brutally murdered is an okay life expression. But if we're zooming back, if we're like zooming out of the vibration of earth energy, we get into that soul contract stuff, and karmically, where our souls are after specific experiences. And these experiences include the spectrum of light and dark, the
If
whole thing.
if we are looking at our existence through the lens of quantum physics tells us that every timeline is existing now.
Uh-huh. So every
So,
possible experience, you're
right.
having
So
it.
I'm having anything that I see happening in the world, I'm experiencing that. And I'm experiencing every variation of it in this moment because time and space do not exist.
Mhm.
Everything is happening right in this moment. Everything is accessible. That's how you and I work. That's how we can access and channel
Mhm.
all of these profound things that we channel because it's all right here. It's just layers and bandwidths, wavelengths
Uh-huh.
on top of each other. And if we raise our frequency, we're accessing different timelines. Quantum physics says you never really change your life, you never really change the world. You are, as you grow better in alignment within yourself, you're just jumping timelines. You're
Mhm.
just jumping in a different dimension that is in alignment with what you're working towards. So
Yeah.
if I want a stronger marriage or I want a different job or I want to live in the country, it's an inside job. That's what we mean by everything is an inside job. You go in, you clear out everything in the way of making those things happen for you. You jump up in frequency and you dance to a new timeline where that house is in the country, where that perfect partner is. There's no perfect partner.
You see, guys, it's so easy. Why aren't
It's
you all doing
so
it?
easy. Just sit in meditation
Why
for
haven't got your
12 hours a
house?
day.
No, I think that there's a lot of like cultural things that are kind of working against us, right? Like, in that lower chakra system podcast, we were talking about how it's a stacking. And so if you don't have safety and security, if you don't have supportive relationships, if you don't have a sense of identity, you're not going to be able to really manifest things. And so there are specific people groups that have more access to this privilege than we do. And that's a systemic issue that we're trying to currently shift. So, you know, when you're saying it on a podcast, you know, it sounds so simple. Like, oh, why haven't you done it yet? Like, why don't you get your house, guys? But in reality, there's so many factors. There's so many factors. It definitely is an inside job. And I do think that the outside could be more supportive of that inside job. And I do feel like collectively, we are currently shifting from systems of oppression that really harm everybody, that keep everybody in low vibrations, to higher vibration systems, right? People talk about that 3 to 5D shift all the time. And I have yet to hear somebody explain specifically what that means in a way that makes human sense to me. But my perception of that is we are going to create systems of support for the human experience, right? These systems, these external systems of support are going to allow us to go and do internal work, right? And I'm seeing it take place as like in process. We're in process with it right now. Everybody loves to crap on the millennials. But you want to know what? Millennials are shifting a lot of freaking energy right now. We are healing generational trauma. We are making it okay to go to therapy. We are first generation gentle parents. We are waking up in ways that not a whole lot of generations had the opportunity to do. And so, absolutely, an internal job, your responsibility to go inward and create that life and align with that vibration is never negotiable, right? You have to do the work. But it that doesn't mean that there's not other things taking place that really sort of hinder that capacity.
That's what this divine feminine resurgence
Mm-hmm.
energy is. It's not about females, it's not about genitalia. It's about this inward energy focus. That's what feminine energy
Mm-hmm.
is. And so these newer generations, we're just every generation is building on the one
Mm-hmm.
previous. And this newer generation is reminding us that there's this huge chunk of awareness that we're missing because we're so externally focused.
Mm-hmm.
And the new frontier is our awareness, is our consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
We want to live in these higher vibrational fields like 5D. What we're doing is we're finding out who we are. And that's what that feminine energy offers us.
Mm-hmm.
It's that inward energy focus, that soft space, that pause in life that shuts out the noise and says, who am I? Okay, we're going back to that throat energy and that heart that helps us metabolize that external wisdoms that we want to pull into us because we only judge people in an attempt to figure out who the hell we are.
Mm-hmm.
If you know who you are, you know your truth with a capital T, all judgment falls away. The only reason we judge people outside of us is to gain a better understanding in relation to them. Okay, oh, she's a bad mother. That means I'm a good mother because I look different.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a shitty worker. I'm a good worker because I look different from them. So this whole shift, this whole generation is saying, hey, go to therapy,
Mm-hmm.
meditate, do all these soft moment things that the external world, your culture, your society is not going to validate. You have to find internal validation or
Yeah.
communities.
You have to be groundbreaking. You literally, if you want to do this work, it's not for the faint of heart, right? You're swimming upstream in a culture that does not, that's really a rushing river the other way. You're
Mm,
like one of those salmon trying to
mm.
get back to your spawn point or whatever.
Yeah,
How you
yeah.
feel, salmon?
And that's
Y'all
that
tired of
community.
swimming yet?
community is on the rise.
Mm-hmm.
So there's three really big aspects to this experience is our relationship with ourself, our relationship with our close loved ones, and our relationship with our community. And I think the first two we've been working on pretty efficiently over the last couple of decades. And so this third piece about, okay, we've gained some inner momentum. We've gone deeper with ourselves, we've gone deeper with our spouses and our children, and our cleared some ancestral wounds with our families. And so now we can start really being altruistic and saying, looking outside the tribe, that tribal mentality that keeps you in survival mode,
Mm-hmm.
just you and the closest. Altruism and selflessness is looking beyond that tribe and trying to connect with people and creating a community that just keeps growing and
Mm.
growing and
Yeah, a
expanding.
community that subverts the system,
Mhm.
right? Like our political system is just such a freaking mess right
The
now.
best.
Oh my gosh. It's
What even
just,
is it?
I mean,
It's
it's not
dying. It's
even
in its it's in its death
death
throes,
throes.
right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's death throes. And so I hear so many people like just decrying this. They're just so upset about how bad our politics are. And it can be upsetting, right? Like this is the system that we as Americans are have been trusting and depending on for a really long time. But there was a shift in my energy, I don't know, quite a while ago that was like, this isn't the system that's going to do it. This is not the system that's going to save, right? Like if we're going to create a new vibration or a new pattern in our culture, we're going to have to create that ourselves. And that's
Hmm.
going to have to be a grassroots thing. And so sometimes people can be critical of me because I don't engage in politics in the same way that they do. But I am working my ass off here,
Hmm.
right? Like I'm working so hard to shift the system, and I'm doing that at the individual level. I've healed myself so much. I've healed myself so much. I offer that same healing to people regularly. I have free stuff that I do literally nonstop. I'm always offering some kind of free thing because I want to help shift the world, and that's the way that I do that, right? And so you can criticize me if you want. If that's what you need to do, that's fine. But I am doing the work of shifting the systems. We both are, right?
Hmm.
So your criticism will kind of roll off my back because it doesn't compute to me. I'm so rooted in the truth that I am shifting things. And that's not that I'm doing it perfectly. There's so much space to grow and to learn and to do it better, and I'm gonna be committed to that, and I'm gonna continue that process as long as I'm in business, as long as I'm alive, but I'm doing it. And my intention and the fruit that I see of the labor that I'm doing is like it's vibes. I'm so proud of myself,
Hmm.
right? So yeah,
Yeah,
I'll step
beautiful.
down off my soapbox now. Guys, I'm doing such a good job. I'll
Your
stop. I'll
job is
stop.
to keep your vibrations high.
Yeah.
That's how we
That's how
ultimately
we
raise.
shift and give it to the world, right?
Yeah.
If we don't know how to do it ourselves, if we don't have that internal narrative of healing and confidence of knowing who we are, of doing that actualization, then we won't know how to give it to anyone else.
Listen, we've tried it that other way. Living chronically angry does no
Mm,
one any good. It's a super low vibration. The ripple effect is non-existent. It's just dead in the water, right?
yeah.
Being chronically angry and polarized is really isolating your effect and influence on the world. So, do you have to
Hmm.
become the monster to beat the monster? Or do you start trailblazing and saying, okay, this isn't working. I'm going to do it my own way. I'm
Yeah.
going to continue to raise my frequency and create a ripple effect that influences a wider expanse of individuals until eventually the whole earth is touched
Hmm.
by this community that we've built that
Hmm.
is refusing to participate.
Yeah. And that's not to say that sometimes we don't have to become the monster, right? Like there are facets of our collective experience that, in my opinion, volunteer to take on that really hard work of being what we are not, to preserve our collective experience, right? Like, let's see, World War II, the wars, right? The wars, when they're done appropriately, we are becoming the monster to sort of like squash a worser monster, right? And that's not how we want to be able to heal our collective experience. But there's a show, it's like, what would have happened if Hitler won the war or something? It's like
Mhm.
the red something or another. But the point is that occasionally we do have to be the monster. And as we progress as a collective, as we progress as a global civilization, we are aging out of that. We no longer will have to do that. That'll be something in our history. That's the way it needs to be. We're not there yet, though. I don't
To
think
learn
we're there
the lesson.
yet.
Is
Yeah.
this a good moment to lay down that awareness that you're me and I'm you?
Yeah, lay it on us.
That I am Hitler, you
Mm-hmm.
are Hitler, that we are all fractals of one, and
Mm-hmm.
we have just differentiated enough from each other so that we can have experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and that we ultimately said, yeah, let's start at the lowest low,
Vibration. Yeah.
where everything is competition, everything is survival, everything is greed.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we created. And it wasn't something outside of me. It wasn't God. It wasn't divine. Anything outside of me. It was me. It was you. And then, like, you take a piece of glass and you shatter it on the ground. We just became individuals,
Mm.
but every individual is still me.
Absolutely. I had a podcast, the very first podcast episode I ever did was me discussing consciousness and how that fractalization effect takes place.
Hmm.
We are all one thing. We're all energy, consciousness, God, whatever you want to say, whatever comfortable thing is for you to call it. I call it, let's see, I call it energy, consciousness, and source. Those would be my three favorite, but I'm saying the same thing every time I say it. But we're all that. And we are doing a lightning strike every time. And we're kind of bridging that connection from source to human expression,
Hmm.
from the space of no vibration, right? There's
Hmm.
no vibration when it's source because it's
Man, we were
all
bored.
encompassing.
We were bored out of our fucking minds. And we said, let's do the earth
She was, I wasn't.
at that super low vibration.
Yeah. Well,
Let's
we
just
had
be.
to because how else were we going to know what we were unless there was something that we were not,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And so it was a requirement of existence, of self-knowing for us to be the full spectrum of reality, joy, bliss, ecstasy, pain, suffering, grief, hate,
Hmm.
love. And we had to do it all so that we could know, well, who are we?
Hmm.
Right. And so
So,
that,
oh, go ahead.
go for it. My favorite part of the podcast, when nobody can decide who's allowed to talk.
No, you go. No, you go. We're dancing. One of my favorite practices to do when I'm feeling judgy
Mhm.
and my heart's closing up. Yes, we are still tethered in heart chakra discussion.
Uh-huh.
Heart starts to close up and I'm feeling judgy. I take that moment and I extend to them gratitude and I say, thank you so much for having this experience for the both of us.
Mm, yeah.
Thank you for taking on that difficult role. Doesn't look nice, doesn't look desirable. Thank you for doing that for the collective to learn the certain lessons and have the experiences that we sought out to do. Sure glad I don't have to do that one this time.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's how I'm like still married to my husband, right? Like if we're gonna take it back to
Oh, wow.
uh
You might want to elaborate on that real quick.
well,
Thanks
girl,
for taking that bullet for us, Blaire. Marrying Jenn.
no. Okay, so going back to that initial thing that I found, like right, the block in that heart chakra I found, that was from lives of him volunteering, and this is what the soul contract energy looks like. And I discovered this after, let's see, I found the block first, and then I examined our soul contract months later. But I found this block where he was like volunteering to be this very dark force or this like negative energy in my life. And we were having this like really awful cyclical thing where I was harmed by him. And that happened multiple lives. And so I came to Earth and I just had a chip on my shoulder towards men. I just did not like men.
Mhm.
And it was a just like this, it was like an inherent edge of like, I can take care of myself. I don't need men, which is really ironic because I ended up in like the most codependent early marriage. I've healed it now, but super codependent there at the beginning. But I had this like bite to me towards men and just didn't like them. Most of my, let's see, probably my soul's abuse was done by the toxic, we'll say toxic masculine. And my current life incarnation, my abuse was also done by toxic masculine energy. And so uh, that shifting moment for me was when I healed that block, pulled that block, and then later on examined that soul contract with my husband. Uh, and it was so clear that he had offered that and that it was not something that reflected his soul either, right? Abuser is not something that is compatible with his soul, just as abused is not something that's compatible with my soul either. These are experiences that we want to have. We're desiring to have them so that we can shift into a higher vibration. And this is the life. Thank God, right? This is the life where we're shifting that pattern and I'm finding that vibration. And the way they showed it to me was there was like this slingshot effect and we built up pressure and we built up pressure and we built up pressure. Even in this current life, we're building up pressure on this slingshot. And when it was released, I had this massive uh like awakening, spiritual awakening. And I'm
Mhm.
like seeing guides and I'm like doing psychic shit.
Mhm.
All because we went through that cycle, went through that soul contract with my husband, and that's what we offered to do. So, so yeah, I'm just grateful for it. Grateful
Yeah.
for it.
That's a perfect highlight to how your life doesn't have obstacles. It has opportunity
Opportunities.
for accelerated growth, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I really want to be tender here though, because if there's somebody who's in an abusive situation and they hear us talking about that, they're gonna be like, "Oh, opportunity! Wow, you guys are bitches." Y'all
Mhm.
just bypass. Y'all are those spiritual weirdos who like don't ever think things are real life. And so what I'm going to encourage is that it's not either or, it's both, right? And so this is going to be a horrible, painful experience for you to like leave your abuse behind. But it can also be this very beautiful experience for you to find your voice. And without it, you may not have been able to access those gifts, right? And so if this conversation is at all triggering, number one, I'm here for you. I'm here for your humanity and your lived experience, and I don't want you to feel triggered, and I don't want you to feel as though these words are bypassy or they're inconsiderate. Um, so reach out to me in DMs, and I would love to support you energetically and just like tell you that I love you and that I care about you still. But I also want to provide that framework of hope for you. If it can be good for me, getting out of my abusive marriage or healing my abusive marriage and having that soul contract of lifetimes of harm, as the backdrop, it can be hopeful for you too. This stuff can really help give you a backdrop of hope. So yeah.
A new language.
Mm-hmm.
There's an existing language for the pain and the suffering that we're all feeling in a myriad of different ways. And I'll speak for myself, but I think it's for you too, is that part of our calling is to offer a new language because the
Mm-hmm.
new language has a really profound and deep hope attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
This macro view of why am I suffering? Why the
Mm-hmm.
fuck is this even happening to me? You
Yeah.
and I both have stories of where we've been in the deepest of deep pain and
Mm-hmm.
suffering. And when I learned this language and this macro view, it was the little peak of sunlight that said it's this life might not be over for you after all. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
there is a bigger picture and maybe there is a path to crawl out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why we're so passionate about speaking them, even though it may be triggering, because maybe not now, but maybe later it will resonate with you and say, okay, I do feel that little kernel of hope. I'm gonna learn that new language and see if it helps me out at all
Yeah.
through the darkness. There's a
Yeah.
lot of darkness in this world,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
but we're not alone.
Yeah.
Why that community piece is really ramping up this decade. And, not to get super weird, but there are intergalactic beings here. You open that heart chakra, girl, you're going to start seeing them. You're going to start listening to them. You're going to become best buds with some of them. You're just,
She's talking about her guides. She calls them
yeah.
intergalactic beings. I call them guides. I call them intergalactic beings too, but what she's talking about is guides. That's probably the term that I use the most.
Or master healers, ascendant masters, these beings that live on higher vibrational planes.
Hmm.
And yeah, your spirit guides do too.
Yeah. So I want to take a little bit of a pivot here. I love everything we were talking about, and I think that talking about guides and kind of touching on guides is a great launch point or a pivot point for what I want to talk about next. I want to talk a little bit about chords, and then I'd like to briefly touch on unity because that is something that we both use in that's well, my unity is a little bit different than yours, but it's something that we both are pretty solid on in we're not complimenting each other. We're doing the same thing, I think.
Hmm.
So, would love to touch on chords. How do you see chords working?
Yeah, this is good, tangible stuff to talk about.
Hmm.
Chords, a lot of people are interested in chords because they feel them. They're
Hmm.
intuitively tapping in. They're like, I feel this connection with
Hmm.
someone. And sometimes it's really beautiful when the relationship is benefiting you. And you're like, yes, you just want to grow those chords.
Hmm.
But most often, relationships end and we decide that they're not healthy for us, but we still feel that connection.
Hmm.
And so that's when we really see people get interested in chords and they're like, how the fuck do I get rid of it?
Yeah, that would probably be like the primary manifestation of like chord people talking about chords, spiritual people
Yeah,
talking about chords. They're like, here,
I want to get it
let's do a
out.
chord cutting ceremony, right? I've
Yeah.
actually never done a chord. Well, okay, I've done the process for myself of like releasing chords, and I've done it with my clients, but I've never actually had like an outward external manifestation of like a chord cutting ceremony that people always talk about. Have you ever done anything like that?
Well, I see working with chords a little bit differently than I think the general
Public does.
yeah, I hear this term cutting all the time.
Hmm.
But all chords were originally created in love, and
Hmm.
love is the highest vibration. And so I want to stay in that energy when I'm working with chords. So,
Hmm.
what I teach and advise is dissolving the chord with sending them love through it. So,
Hmm.
these chords are connecting your hearts together. So you have your heart chakra, they have their heart chakra, you have a relationship with them, you don't want it anymore, but you're still feeling connected to them. And if you can see energy, which everyone can, if you just got quiet enough, if you got still enough, you close your eyes, take a few breaths, tune into that heart space, see if you can see this very tangible flow of energy connecting the front of your heart to the front of their heart. You may also see cords from the back of the heart into the back of their heart. That denotes multiple timelines living in relationship with this person, but that's probably a whole nother conversation. But it works either way. If you see cords coming out of the front or the back of your hearts and connecting you, the process is still the same. You just send love. Okay, you get into this really beautiful space. You may not be able to feel love with them. So who do you love? Okay, so this is how I work with it in session is okay, so I love my child or I love my mother. Okay, all we need to do is create that feeling inside of your body, which is a tangible energy that we can then use, right? It's just a tool we need to use. So sometimes I'll have them sit in the energy of someone they really love. Let's choose your mother. You had a great mom. Love energy is pink. So once that person starts feeling that feeling they have towards their mother, pink starts blooming everywhere in their energy. Then you can focus and funnel that energy into that cord, send it through your cord into them, having the intention, I love you, but goodbye. I love you on some plane, or I'm sending love to you, and it's going to dissolve this cord. And you can
Mm-hmm.
see it if you're really tapped in and you're able to connect with this intention of we've had our fun, it's over. You'll start to see that cord dissolve. If you want to cut cords, that's fine. It's a really prevalent practice. What I have found is that they grow back
Mm-hmm.
because you're in the wrong energy. And I say wrong loosely. You're just in a lower vibrational energy and it leaves you open to growing it back. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel good when you're cutting it because you're angry. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people get that machete out. They'll say, they'll say, get
Yeah.
some sharp,
Get
some
a
visualize
sword.
something sharp and just start hacking at it. I look at those energies and they grow back because you're still
Mm-hmm.
angry. You're still harboring resentment. And so nothing's really resolved. When you can get
Mm-hmm.
in a place of, like we were talking about earlier, this compassionate space where you can send them generic love, not romantic love, just this
Mm-hmm.
generic energy, then you're starting to heal what's actually happened between you and really fully release it, if that
Well,
makes
okay, you said generic, but what if we called it transcendent? Right?
transcend.
That foundational energy of love for all, right?
Hmm.
Like if you can shift into that, where
Yeah.
like you can validate the humanity of the person that you're dissolving this cord with, that's to me, that's when it becomes the most effective.
Yeah.
They're a
That's very
human making bad choices, and they're doing the best that they can with the tools that they have. And when you are able to tap into that, you have this like real profound empathy. You have a very profound compassion for this person that you no longer want to be with, right?
Mhm.
And we've really circled back beautifully because this is that this is that conflation that often happens. If I send them love, that means that it was okay. It's
Mm.
not okay that they did what they did. And at the same time, we won't harm them for that. We won't perpetuate this cycle of harm by hacking this energy, right? And so I also do the dissolving, but I send gold down there.
Oh, gold
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
yeah,
You're
gold.
dissolving for you. It's that old adage. You don't
Mhm.
forgive for them, you
Oh,
forgive
you
for
do it
yourself.
completely nihilistically, right?
Hmm.
Anytime I'm saying you have to love people or you need to find your way towards empathy,
It's for
of
you.
course, it's great for everyone. It's absolutely fabulous for the collective and for the people, all people involved. But mostly it's great for you because you're not going to be in harm anymore. You're not going to have that very low vibration anger and that like cyclical, like, let me just hem and haw around this trauma. Let me dance around this wound over and over and over again. You're going to get out of that. And
Mm.
so when I'm cutting cords or dissolving cords or whatever I'm doing with a cord, it's always of the benefit of all involved, but absolutely for your gain. I
Because
have.
they're siphoning energy off of you.
Mhm.
So when you effectively dissolve them, that comes right back into you.
Yeah, I have cut cords before when it was a very 3D harmful situation and the person needed to get out of that situation promptly.
Mm-hmm.
And it was this a great big like push of empowerment, and we cut it, and then they moved out of that arena and absolutely ran the risk of like having that cord grow back.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the other end of that, getting out of that energy, we were able to kind of send that flow of dissolving, loving energy to fill that void, and it felt very effective. It felt like it worked.
That sounds beautiful.
And here's the thing about cutting cords that you guys are not gonna like. When you do it, it doesn't matter if you're doing it on the energetic plane, you're not even telling the people. They will reach out to you.
They
It is
will.
weird. Yeah, I had a friendship that just wasn't serving me. And so I just like kind of quietly, I hadn't heard from this friend. And that was really why it wasn't serving me. There was like a lack of communication, a lack of like transparency and authenticity. There was no space for me to speak my needs in the relationship. And so I'm like, I'm dissolving this. This is not serving me. It's that really beautiful moment where I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm dissolving the cord. I'm sending love down this cord, this flow. I'm taking my energy back. I'm getting empowered. And who do you think was in my DMs
Oh yeah.
as I was finishing the freaking ceremony? I
They
swear it
don't
was
know
this person.
why you've popped in their head, but they have. When I was working with my mentor really intensely, this was during my apprenticeship, and I was dissolving this connection that I have with this person over many, many, many timelines that was just abusive and oppressive.
Mhm.
And they were abusing me in this life. They weren't a part of my life anymore. I was just dissolving these connections. It took months, and this person would I would travel somewhere during this time, and I would find out when I got back home that they were in the hotel next to mine. I would be at a friend's house, and they would text my friend sitting next to me, whom they never text anymore. But because I was sitting geographically next to them, their energy would show up. It's wild. So make sure that you're ready to really say goodbye because they're going to test you. They're benefiting from this kind of succubus incubus relationship sometimes if we're talking about that kind of relationship.
Energetically, yeah.
Yeah, they're siphoning this energy off of you. They're benefiting from it. So when you start to pull those cords back and that energy, they know, and they're going to do little things, and this is all subconscious if they lack the awareness to pull you back in. So be firm.
I got pulled
You
back in,
want,
by the way. I
yeah,
had to do
yeah,
it
yeah,
again.
yeah, it's okay. The first time doesn't always take.
No, it doesn't.
Third
Yeah.
time's the charm.
Yeah, I had one really interesting experience where we dissolved the cord, and like I knew the cord was going to try to grow back. This person had such an intense connection, an intense desire to be with this person that I had to route the cord from their heart chakra into their lower chakra system to keep the energy flowing, but shift the energy slightly.
Mm.
So, yeah, chords are really interesting, more dynamic experience than I feel like they're marketed very often,
Mhm.
right? Like such an effective tool when we're talking about sacral energy, when we're talking about heart chakra energy too. But yeah, they're maybe not marketed very well by most spiritual people. So if you're
Mhm.
interested in working in that energy, Book a quantum insight session with me.
Yeah. You can also anchor purposely and intentionally things that you do want in your heart. There's this offering that I use periodically that I call dedicated flows, which I'm sure you do a
Mm,
version of it. If someone wants to start a small business, or if someone wants to create a pregnancy, or someone wants to call in anything they want to manifest, you can create chords in your heart that are kind of tethered to this thing out here
mm,
in your aura, and it helps you call those things in, and you feed it and you nurture it, and you spend a lot of time with that dedicated flow that is connecting your heart to this thing that you want for yourself. So even in relationship with people, you have chords, but also these things that you want for yourself. Like you and I
mm.
have small businesses. I have a Gaia Heals cord. You have an Informal Mystic cord.
It probably need to dissolve it sometimes. Little. I have such an attachment to this business. I love this business so much. It is probably been one of my favorite things that I've ever done. So yeah, anytime you have something that you're really, really attached to, you probably need to get a little distance from it, right? But man, am I having a good time
You're
with this
just
cord.
you're just feeding it fat and carbs and
Oh
just
yeah,
watching it
all that
just
energy.
bolt, bolt.
So much of my energy goes down that specific chord because I freaking love this place. I mean, I've manifested, I've self-actualized in this business so much, and it's my baby. I just love it so much. I love my kids too, like my actual kids way more, right? Like make me choose and I'll pick my kids, but I do love this business too. So. Want to talk a little bit about unity before I feel like we're wrapping up our time. I feel like we've gone over an hour. I always go over an hour. Y'all know that. But wanted to talk a little bit about unity before we left because that's something that we use in
Mhm.
every session.
It's the space with which we operate. It's
Hmm.
that it bring
It's the
unity.
container.
It's a container. It's allows you to stay in higher vibrational fields
Hmm.
and become that clear channel
Hmm.
to help at the highest possible level. Whoever needs help, we're here to
Hmm.
channel what we can to help heal them, help them heal, and guide them through their clarities. Um, I work with Vishu, who is a interdimensional being that vibrates on a higher frequency. And over an 18-month period, he gave me this process in which that you can call in supportive energies to help you maintain higher frequencies, which just opens you up to everything, communicating
Hmm.
with higher wisdoms, staying in peace states, just really operating at a high level.
So, you were given the aspects of unity over the course of time and uh,
Yeah,
what
it
unity
continues to
is.
unfold,
It
right?
does.
It's I don't think it's completed yet, but we work with what we have. So you want me to go through it really quick?
Yeah, yeah, we can go through it.
Okay. So there's the sacred geometric shape that lives in your heart. Okay. So this is the empty vessel that we call those supportive energies into. I start with source. I think Blaire starts with
Start
earth.
with Earth. Hmm.
Okay. So source, we call source energy down through the top of the head into that vessel in the heart. We call earth in through the feet into that vessel in the heart. You will call in, seated in front of you, someone vibrating in higher dimensional fields that is here to support you. So if you're really tapped into your spirit guides, you can just go ahead and call them in, or you can just kind of leave it open and be like, hey, if you're here to support me in my highest truths, my highest endeavors, please come in and help me.
Hmm.
You'll see their heart energy connect with you and flow their energy into the front of your heart. And then lastly, we see behind us our higher selves, which usually look like this white glowing frequency. They show up for us, and out of the front of their heart flows into the back of your heart. All of those supportive energies now live in your heart space. And we can do anything we want with that. We can invite it out into all four corners of our being and send it to places inside of us that might need some extra attention and love. If we have pain or anything like that, we can send it out into the world. We can send it to our community. We can keep it inside of us temporarily to facilitate healings.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, when you create your own relationship with it and a deeper connection, you can maintain unity in your force field all the time. So I kind of just live in the unity frequency and I never leave it. It's a really pleasurable place to be, and I'm able to be a clear channel,
Mm-hmm.
walking through my daily life. And so Blaire and I really love teaching you how to call in these supportive energies, and you guys take it home. You don't need us to, we'll show it the
Yeah.
once and then we'll send you home, and then you just do the thing over and over. Everything we do is a discipline and a practice.
Mm-hmm.
The more you do it, the more of a relationship uniquely you create with it, and pretty soon you'll just feel fucking fantastic. You'll just have this discernment. You'll have these clarities. Oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. Oh, that's the right answer for me.
What a sales pitch.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah. And you can only learn it from Gaia Heals and Informal Mystic, folks. GaiaHeals.org and informalmystic.com. I'm kidding. But I'm sure there's like versions of it everywhere, right? Like
Mm.
I'm sure everybody has
Oh,
their
yeah.
own journey to get those supportive energies called in. But I am grateful that it's unity for me, right? Like I'm grateful that I got the version that you were given, because I just love it. It really, it's so multi-layered, right? So for me, it really helps us get into that energy. It helps us get beyond the ego, because you do have, it's okay, let's see. I don't remember what I call it. I call it a specific thing. It's like let's see, active receiving, right? Like you're actively guiding your energy into these places. And that's what she was talking about by the discipline. You have to sit and you have to work with your mind's eye, and you have to ascend your vibration and expand your energy and ascend and expand and ascend and expand. And then you have to, figure out where in your mind you are. And then you have to like call in earth energy. You have to do that visual. And it's just this beautiful practice of like developing your third eye, getting your vibration right, getting your vibration prepared to drop into that container. At the end, we always drop into the healing container, and the guides will assist in like creating a barrier so that we can do the healing. And then what happens is, and this is the part that always hangs people up, right? Like we can get through unity because there's directions, but then we sit down in our container and I'm like, what's there? What's in the container? And like this is like sort of late in my container, in my okay, I'm saying the word container way too many times. In my 12-week
Vibrant
package.
container.
It's a vibrant sacred geometric container. uh, okay, in my package, near the end is when I'll start pivoting from like earth things, and I'll start like making sure you know how to do this stuff yourself. It's equipping you is such a high priority for me in my medicine. And so a lot of times there's like a few sessions, no, not a few, a couple sessions where I step back as the healer. And it depends. This is all individualized. So I mean, it may happen earlier for some people. It may need to be like a couple rounds for other people. But I step back and I say, okay, you're in the container. What's in front of you? And people are just like, oh, I can't see anything. I can't see anything. And I'm like, just relax and receive. Put the intention there. Create a vortex and pull in that energetic match. And the unity is the process that gets us to be able to do that. So I just love unity. And I'm just so grateful that I have it,
Hmm.
that you
The
gave it to me.
science behind it is we're altering our brain waves.
Mm,
So being in a trance state or a light meditative state is shocking for some people
hmm
because unity will get you there, and otherwise you think that you're meditating, but the monkey mind's going.
Mm-hmm.
We live in that beta brain wave. When we're kind of lightly meditating, we're going to alpha, and then when we go deeper, it's those delta and theta. And so unity gets you right into those delta and theta brain waves where you're deeply going and you're projecting into the astral realms. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe the first couple of times that monkey mind's wrestling with you a little bit. So stick with it. This is a
Mm-hmm.
practice and a discipline, but that's the beauty of these practices that um, we're downloading
Mm-hmm.
is to help us. They're just tools to help us
Yeah.
connect with ourselves on a deeper level.
Yeah, and a lot of belief system work too. Like, okay, so next week we're talking about the upper chakra system, and I talk about this mantra that I had to use for a really long time, which is what if everything I'm seeing is true? What if everything I'm seeing is like if I acted like it was observable and objective truth? And so sometimes we'll be in session and I'll have a client that will see something and it'll be like a little weird, right? Like the ego wants it to be fancy. The ego wants it to be like, ooh, very cool. But if they're seeing like a visual from a movie or like, a character or something, it can like really jar them out of the energy, because they want it to be cool. They want it to like be like palatable, but they're getting like a cartoon character or something, and they're like, "Well, this can't be right. Oh my God." Right? So you got to do belief system work. And you need to kind of have the support for you to start believing, yeah, that's actually what it is. That's they were just using that as communication.
Yeah.
So
Get more
yeah.
creative. Say the universe can only communicate with you in the languages you understand.
Mm-hmm.
And imagination doesn't exist. If we have thought it up in our brains, it exists. You think
Mm-hmm.
that in your mind, your imagination is creating something novel that the divine didn't think about? No.
Mm-hmm.
Dragons live on other dimensional planes. Frogs talk in other timelines.
Mm-hmm.
Just submit to it. Submit
Yeah.
to the mystery of it and also grow your vocabulary. I've felt really
Mm-hmm.
stunted lately because pickles have been showing up left and
Pickles.
right for me. Pickles. Everything was pickles to the point where, like, the song that came on was just named Pickles. My
Mm-hmm.
daughter said, I'm going to nickname you Pickles. And then my husband comes home with a gift from his boss that was Pickles socks. Okay. And I'm like, what is with this fucking pickle? And I look it up and it holds the energy of detox and cleanse. And I was like,
Uh,
right.
that's
So,
so
yeah,
funny. Yeah.
my language is probably lacking that the universe could only communicate in the terms of pickles in relation to detoxing for me.
I think sometimes it's like really humbling, right? Like, oh my gosh, I used to do a comparable thing to the spirit guide readings that Jen would have. And I would see it's just some weird stuff. Like, I would just see weird things. I cannot tell you the amount of times the universe has communicated with imagery of uh, freaking kids' movies. The
Hmm.
Lego movie. Oh, that one comes through a lot because it's a really cool
Uh-huh.
movie. I love the Lego movie. But for me to be in session and for me to be like, oh, Emmett, the yellow brick man is coming through. I'm like, I can't say that. Universe, I gotta be cool. I'm trying to market myself. I'm trying to be a brand. And it's a formal brand, which it's really not. Like I named it Informal Mystic because I knew that I was gonna like really need to stay informal and stay like not super, super serious. And so it's like, okay, when weird, quote unquote, weird things come through because it's all communication. It's all a communication system. So stay out of your
Hollywood
head,
is here
guys.
to prep us.
Uh-huh. The
Hollywood is
mythology.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fiction is here to prep us for future, for expansion. We use
Mm-hmm.
art to expand our awareness. And so the universe is going to use Hollywood archetypes and fiction storylines and
Mm-hmm.
narratives to
Yeah,
convince
to
us.
show us. Absolutely. And I've always said that there's nothing more shifting and healing than a kids movie.
Mhm.
Because you are receiving and you're like not thinking you're going to get healed, right? Like you don't think you're going to get healed when you sit down to watch this kids movie. And then at the end of the kids movie, you're literally sobbing and you're not sure why.
The
It's
kids
because
movie,
it's so you're receptive to it. You know,
It's
if it were like a
always the hero's
documentary,
journey.
it's a lot of times, yeah, a lot of times it's the
That's
hero's
why the
journey.
parent dies, right? Gaia, my daughter, she is so miffed. Mom, why do they kill you in every movie? And I say, honey, it's the archetypal hero's journey. He has to leave
Mm,
the home. She has
gotta
to
be
go
an
off on
orphan.
her own and she has to find herself. And
Hmm.
in modern day existence, humanity's trying to find themselves. They're trying
Yeah.
to leave home. They're trying to go off on their big adventure and
And
gather courage
self-actualize.
and
Yeah.
self-actualize. So every freaking Disney movie out there is the hero's journey and it just pulls on those
Hmm.
heartstrings, opens
Yeah.
that heart up.
Hmm. Yep.
Watch that Toy Story 4 again and feel that heart chakra open up.
Oh man. The Lego movie was such a good one. I just love the Lego movie. I don't know why. It's like a weird like I like it too much. I'm like, Blaire, like let's get it together. But I will say that my child, when he was a little boy, we put it on so many times that as like a 3 or 4 year old, he could recite word for word the Lego movie, probably up until like minute number 5. So we
Wow.
burned that movie up. We burned it up. But yeah, kids movies are really healing. So don't downplay a kids movie. When they're well done, some of them are freaking dumb, right? Like I'm just like I saw the movie Migration.
Oh, it was awful, Blaire. That
Oh,
was
I
the one I was
hated
getting ready to say.
it. I
It
love
was
the
so
voice
thin.
actors. I love
Well,
the
yeah,
voice
Danny DeVito was
actors.
in there.
Yeah, and the main guy, loved hearing him talk, but just did not, the story was so, the villain was just not villainy enough.
Stakes
They're,
were not high enough for those ducks.
no, it just wasn't very good. So,
It wasn't.
um, kids' movies can be done very badly too. Let's see, I don't like anything by Sony. There's like a movie like Hotel Transylvania is them. There's like just like a line of movies I'm just like they don't do it right. But if you're talking about like I love Wreck-It Ralph,
Mm.
a lot of good Disney movies. And we're shifting out of that paradigm where the women have to get saved by the prince. So it's going to be good. It's going to be a good shift for us, I think, culturally. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that enchantress archetype is really that
Mhm.
Kali
Coming
Ma,
up.
Artemis, all of these sacred feminines that are
Mhm.
coming up on the scene.
Yeah. Oh, and
Dependent
Inside
and
Out 2.
sovereign.
Inside Out 2 is coming out. So
Mm.
excited about that one. Love that
Yeah,
freaking
let's
movie.
just stare at our emotions and non-judgment.
Parts work. All right. Okay, that was beautiful. This was a
Yeah.
great conversation and it went all over the place, but as they do, you guys know that we don't get from point A to point B easily or lightly. So, how can we find you, Jen? I actually still get your Instagram handle wrong sometimes.
Well, it's Gaia_heals.
Yeah, I
Okay.
just want it to be regular Gaia Heals with no
Someone had it.
underscore.
Come on, someone
Yeah,
already had it.
yeah.
GaiaHeals.org is my website. Jenn@GaiaHeals.org is my email if you want to connect in that way. I hold office hours if you're local on Tuesdays and Thursdays at a beautiful medicinal space called Holistic Family Medicine Practice and Healing Center. So I do in-person energy healing sessions there. And
Single
then
session offerings too. So
Mhm.
I got the package. She's got the single session still. So
Right. And just watch my website and my Instagram for events. I'm going to be holding
hmm.
monthly women's circles more regularly now. Like Blaire, I do a lot of, well, we both used to do a lot of cacao circles.
Hmm.
Um, and I try and choose a couple apprentices a year. I have 2 apprentices right now. About the middle of the year, I might open up another slot.
Kick them out.
Well, they'll graduate.
New cycle. Oh, they don't get kicked out like I did.
No, you graduated.
Dishonorable discharge. No, I'm kidding. It was all good. Yeah, it was just time to graduate. Been an
It
apprentice for a
was.
long time.
This is a
So
couple of years.
yeah. Yeah, I got
There's
that good. Got that long apprenticeship.
Yeah. The more you know, the more you realize you know
You don't
nothing.
know. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
she just said, Jen, neither one of us knows shit, so I'm sailing off on my own.
When are we going to learn something, Jen?
I don't know. We know nothing.
Still haven't learned anything, guys. All right, you guys,
Thank you for
hang in
having me.
there. Yeah,
It was
thank you for
fun.
coming on. One day we're gonna have to do this in person. Oh, we've already done it in person. The two finale episodes are the energy healing round table chat, and that's where we get wild, guys. We talk about some crazy stuff, and we've already recorded it. So, yeah, Jen will be back on the podcast in maybe a month or so, and I'll see you guys next week. I'm so glad I got the opportunity to introduce you all to Jenn, my mentor for the last couple years. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so that you're not missing any more episodes, and be sure you're following me on Instagram. At the end of this series, I'm going to be offering a free PDF on the way I see the chakra system kind of manifesting and playing out, and how it is such a useful tool for us. It's going to be an ebook format. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, you may miss your chance to get that free ebook. So it's at Informal Mystic on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And I will see you guys there. Remember, stay mystical.